Hello, friends. Welcome again in the series of learning computer organization and design. As we are discussing about the central processing unit, so today we will describe in brief about the left topics like data transfer and manipulation, program control and interrupt, then reduce instruction set computer as well as the complex instruction set computer. So, students, for your understanding, let me brief you that these topics we will just understand, you could say that a general meaning of them. We will not go in very detail about these topics because it is not the demand, right? So, let's understand the things in more detail in this regard. So, before beginning, I would like to discuss that in the basic computer, we have learned that the instructions are broadly being classified in three forms, right? One was the memory reference instructions, the another was the register reference instructions, and the third one was the input output instructions. So I have a detailed lecture on this particular topic as well. So in the description, I will also provide the link if you haven't watched that. So my point is that why I am actually providing you this information because you might get confused because this topic is almost the same that most of the computer instructions can be classified into three categories. Okay, now my point is that this particular topic is in regard to the modern machines which we are using with different configuration, but this was only specific to the basic computer only. So in the exam you have to figure out that what is the question statement, because if it they are asking you only about the basic computer, then the instruction types or instruction categories are these only, right? But when we talk about the modern machines or the simple computer instructions, and then their categorization is further falling into the three waveforms only. But these forms are like data transfer instructions, data manipulation instructions, and program control instructions. So now in the upcoming slides, we are going to describe in detail about what do you mean by the data transfer instructions. What is this manipulation? What is this program control instructions? So let's understand them. So here, the very first instruction is the data transfer types. Now, data transfer simply means normally the machines are using the resistors to transfer the data. Like I want to transfer the data from R2 to R1, or maybe from the memory, I have to pick the data and to place it somewhere else, right? Means I am moving the data. So, my point is that whenever the instruction is responsible for transferring of the data either from one register to another register, or from the memory to register, or from register to memory in any way, right? So these all instructions will be categorized as data transfer instructions where we will be actually transferring the data. Now you could say the source and destination could be either registers or the memories or both, right? So the typical instructions which are falling under this categories are like load, store, move, exchange, input, output, push, pop. See, the entire things that we have learned so far in this chapter have came here, right? In all the ways, whether we are talking about the stack organization, whether we are talking about the memory organization, or about the register data organization, right? So we were using some sort of data transportation, so in order to transfer the data, right? So these all instructions will fall under the category of data transfer. Similarly, if we proceed ahead with the second category of the instruction, so that is the manipulation instruction. Manipulation simply means I am when modifying the bits, right? So modifying the bits within the instructions or the data, you could say. So these data modification or manipulation instructions are further categorized into three forms. If you remember the topic of micro operations, that there we have understood that the micro operations usually falls under these three categories. Either it is an arithmetic micro operations where we are performing add, then increment, then subtraction, right? All these kind of instructions. Similarly, the logical and micro or bit manipulation micro operations, like we know XOR is there, AND is there, OR is there, complement is there, and all the other kind of bit manipulation instructions like selective set, selective clear. So means all these micro operations which we have already studied so far, right? So these now will be categorized as the data manipulation instructions. In the same manner, as we have also learned about the shift instructions or shift micro operations, so like whether I am about to perform the logical shift or the circular shift micro operation or the simple shift even, the micro operation, or I want to go for the arithmetic shift. So all these instruction will fall under the category of shift micro operations. So my point is that whatever is the operation we are talking about, whether it is addition or sorry arithmetic or logical or shift, what we are doing exactly, we are changing the data, we are manipulating the instructions, we are modifying the bits. So that is why this entire category is falling under the data manipulation instructions. Okay, so as we have already discussed arithmetic instructions, so these all could be the example of arithmetic micro operation. Okay, then these are the shift micro operations. You just have an understanding about these topics, that's it, means these instructions. Like the question in the exam, if it is coming in MCQ, would be like, okay, which instruction is falling under which category? So you have to figure out that whether it is data manipulation or it is program control or it is the simple data transfer instruction. Accordingly, you have to answer the questions. Then there comes the shift micro operations, right? The shift instructions. So it was the logical shift left, right, arithmetic, then simple, and all those things. So there comes the third category now. The third category is the program control instructions. So if you remember, program control means the PC. PC is a special register which was existing in the basic computer. It is also existing here. Now, what is the functionality of the program counter? The program counter is basically responsible for holding the address of next instructions, right? Whenever we are currently, let's suppose, working with some instruction, in the program counter you will also get a value. That value is always pointing me to the address of the next instruction. What could be the next instruction? So same is the case here. If it is just been incrementing by 1, it means that the data is the instructions are going in sequence. Like if it is first, second, third, and the program counter is right now at this, then the next value of program counter will be 2, then 3, then 4. It is actually lying in the sequence. The instructions are being executed like this. But it's not always the case that your instructions will be executed in a very proper sequenced manner. Sometimes your instruction need to step from this second address to the, let's suppose, the 50th address. Yes, it can be the case. So such kind of instructions are actually coming under or falling under the categories of branching or the conditional or the subroutines kind of, or maybe it is a falling under the category of stack as well. Okay, means address of this instruction which is lying next to us, right? It would be coming from any other source. Maybe the current instruction is pointing me that, like in the instruction it is already been mentioned, let's suppose it is a branch unconditional. It is all directly pointing me that, okay, go to the, if this is let's suppose 20, it is directly pointing me that the next instruction which I need to hold is actually the 50th instruction. in such manner. So program control instructions are like branch, jump, skip, call, return, compare, and text test. So these all instructions will fall under this category of program control, means which are been controlled by the values present in this program counter. That's it. So with this, we have already discussed about these three categories of the computer instructions. Now there comes the another point where we have to learn about one of the very important topic, which is the processor status word, or it is also known as PSW. So as the name simplifies, processor status, it is this particular topic is going to depict me the status of the processors, right? So this is what the meaning of the term. Now, before that, let me talk something about these flags also. If you remember, in the basic computer, we have used a lot of flags. Like there was a E flag for storing the carry bits. There is FGI input flag when it was responsible for presenting or telling me the status of this input resistor. FGO is there for depicting the status of the output resistor. I flag is there. I is usually the mode bit, right? IEN is there for interrupt enable. R is the resistor interrupt kind of thing. So point here is that these are only one bit, but depicting me any particular status of either of the resistor or any particular device, right? So point is that this is what is the flag which is depicting me the status. Now, if I take the simple example, if the value of FGI is 1, it means your input resistor is busy now. It is not free to take the inputs. But if the value of this FGI is 0, then the input device will have the ability to send the data into this input resistor. So the idea is that in the basic computers we were using different kind of the flag bits. But if I'm talking about the processors or the modern machines, then what happened is that these flags are often combined into one resistor. Okay, we know that we will be using these flags. We will definitely be in need of using these flags, whether we are using the modern machines or these are the just simplified kind of machines. When you, let's suppose the configuration is as similar to the basic computer. So what we are doing is we are holding all these values in one resistor, and then we call this particular resistor as the processor status resistor, or sometimes it is also called as the processor status word, because in this particular resistor I am holding the status, the entire status of the processor. So what are the common flags being used in this processor status word? See, this is actually a processor status word or a processor status resistor. It is having some naming conventions like C is there, which is nothing but the carry flag. If while computing the data, okay, I got some carry value. So this carry value will get activated. Yes, some carry is being generated within the output. This is S. S is depicting me the sign bit, right? So if there is some sign bit being associated within the result, okay, so this most significant bit of the resultant or the output is going to depict me the sign bit. Then there comes Z. It might be the case that while computing or executing the instruction in the output, I got 0000 as a resultant, means all zeros. So when 0 is a resultant, definitely that there is a flag with the name 0, which stores the when the output comes as a 0, right? So this Z value or Z flag will get activated. Then there is a new flag, there is another flag V, which we usually are aware of because we have already studied this overflow flag in the arithmetic kind of AMATIC, arithmetic kind of shift micro operations. I guess the it was arithmetic shift left. Yeah. So in case of arithmetic shift left, what was the use case? We need to always check whether we can perform this operation or not. So how we used to do that? We always have on this most significant bit and the one which is lying below. We always use to check the V value, right? So same is the case here. So this V value will be checked with the most significant bit and the one which is lying with that, right? So along with this, so we are going to depict the value whether there is an overflow being generated or not generated. If the value of V was equals to 1, then I was saying, okay, there is an overflow in the data. But if the value of V is equals to 0, then I usually used to say that, okay, there is nothing like an overflow within the data. Okay, so the processor status word is consisting of a register, right, which is holding the flag bits. That's it. And these flag bits or these flags are associated with the functionality of the processor in this case. This is what exactly is this entire topic. Now, other than this, we have also described about the interrupts many of times till the time we have started learning about the central processing units. So, if I have to just brief you about theoretically, if I have to tell you the program interrupts, then usually the interrupt, we know that interrupt is simply a disturbance which has been created within the machine, right? When your machine has to uh, pause its current work and have to give priority towards these kind of interrupts or disruptions which are being given or provided to the machine. So what the interrupts are, usually these interrupts are falling under three categories. So we call them as external interrupts, internal interrupts, as well as the software interrupts. So when I am talking about the external, means the interrupt has not been generated by any of the internal component, but it has been generated by some external entity. Like for me, external entity could be like input output device, right? So these input output device kind of any input device want to send the request to the machine, then it will be an interrupt. Like a simple example of this could be like whenever we attach the USB to our laptop or the system, there is always a kind of interrupt. We usually get the notification above the current functionality or whatever the process we are doing on the system. So this is something we called it as an external interrupt. Okay, power failure can also be part of that. So the second category is internal. So as the name specifies only, internally when we are running some program and within that particular program, we are able to get some kind of interrupts. Like very simple kind example is the stack overflow. If you remember, if you have learned the concept of the stacks before, then there is always a overflow kind of condition been there in the stacks, whether the stack is filled or the stack is empty. So these are the two conditions always we need to check, because if the stack is empty and we are trying to pop the operation, we are applying pop operation, this will lead me for an interrupt. If the stack is full and further I am trying to push the data in the stack, then again it will be a kind of interrupt. Some other kinds of interrupts are been there, like whenever I want to divide a number by zero, such kind of interrupts are also been falling under the category of the internal kind of interrupts. We are also sometimes calling them as the traps. Then there comes the third category of the interrupts, usually called as the software interrupts, right? Software interrupts are usually being generated by the software itself. Like within the machine, if I talk about the computer system only, our computer can run in two modes, if you are aware. One is the, you could say that the safe mode is there, right? And one is the mode which is normal mode, where we are working. So certain features can met only when we are using the safe mode. Some functionality can only be done in the safe mode, not in the any other mode. Such kind of interrupts are called as the software based interrupts. So this was all about the interrupt and its types. So let's discuss about this last topic now, which is again the CISC and RISC. CISC is usually standing for the complex instruction set computing, and the risk is usually associated with reduced instruction set computing. Okay, so as the name simplifies, it is using the less number of instructions, it is usually using the more number of instructions within the system. So this is just, you could say that how what is the mechanism being used by the instruction set, whether it is using the sys kind of architecture or it is using the risk kind of architecture. We will not learn in detail about what is risk and what is risk because it is beyond the syllabus. So the only thing is that we should know the difference. What is how the CISC or the risk is different from the other. So basically, CISCs are emphasizing more on hardware. Okay, complex instruction set computing, its more emphasis is on the hardware components. But in case of risk, they are more emphasizing on the softwares. Similarly, when there is a complex instruction set computing, right? So instructions are complex, so it might take multiple clocks to execute the instruction. Like usually the instruction cycle we have learned, I know we know that the entire instruction will get executed in maybe the 4 clock pulses or 5 clock pulses are required. So multiple clocks are required to perform different phases of the instruction. But when we talk about the risk, just because we are trying to reduce the size of the instruction, right? So we will try to compute it within the one single clock. The entire instruction is to be executed. Then usually, the memory to memory instructions are being used. Mostly, we prefer that whenever we are using the RISC kind of instructions, we will have to refer to the memory only. But when we talk about the RISC, we are usually associated with the register to register based instructions. Similarly, here, this is important concept to understand. What we are doing is we are trying to minimize the code, to make the code small, of small size, but number of steps we are increasing. Okay, the point is that we are trying that we will be reducing the code, the size of the code, but the cycles to execute these particular codes will become very high. But in case of the risk, as we are trying to reduce the instruction set, right? So what we are doing, we will be having the large codes. Like simple example here I am taking. Like when I was teaching you the concept of general register organization. That form I was talking about the control word. So control word is varying in its size, if you remember how it is varying in the size. Like if I take the example of simple instruction was like r2 plus r3 plus r4 so on up to r1, the data is to be stored here. So I have to store refer this address also, this address also, this also, and this also, and then I have to tell that also that we would like to perform the addition, right? Remember, so accordingly the size of the control word will be having the more number of bits, means it will lead me more complexity because the processor has to refer to number of addresses like this address, r2, r3, r4 address, and r1 address. But that too, I will be able to execute the instruction only in one go within a single clock cycle. But here, when we are using this kind of approach, like if you have remember that some instructions would be used. Like let's suppose I want to perform the add. This is a memory reference instruction. Some data is been given, and let's suppose it is to be performed here in the form of direct mode. Then it will be going to the fetch of the phase, then decode phase, then read phase, then execute phase. Mean in each and every instruction, some different memory cycles will be there, but that instruction will be smaller in the size. Like in the fetching, I would be saying, okay, take the data from the program counter and place it in the address register. So this is actually simplified in the approach. rather than this entire thing which I wanted to execute in one go. It will consume only one cycle to just do this thing. Okay, so this is what is the meaning of this term. Then the next point here is that we are basically using the transistors for holding the data, but these transistors are used for holding the complex instructions only. Similarly, here we are using the transistors concept only for the memory register, not for the processor register. So this is the exact difference between the RISC and the CISC approach. So I hope that you are able to understand this concept fully. Thank you so much for joining the session.